On this week's episode of Damsels in the DMs.
Dear damsels, I've started seeing someone and I think it's getting serious, but it's really hard to tell. We met around 3 weeks ago and we've been in constant communication and we've been going on dates around 2 to 3 times a week. I always get nervous once it reaches the 2 month mark because I always seem to lose them after a couple months of consistently dating. Thanksgiving is around the corner and I hate going home and getting a billion questions asked about my dating life. I don't even know what to tell my family because every time I tell them about someone, they seem to disappear after a couple of weeks. How do I keep this guy around so that we can move on to the next stage of dating, which is being exclusive? Question mark. Help. Can't keep a date.
This message is intended as a reminder that we are not licensed professionals, not psychiatrists or psychologists. If you have a serious problem, please seek professional help. The National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255.
There's some damsels in the DM.
Yes, queen.
Tell us what's the vibe. There's some damsels in the DM. Please tell us what's the vibe. DMs, yeah we see them, yeah we read them. DMs, we don't need them, we just leave them.
Please.
Yeah.
It's going down in the DMs. Bye.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Damsels in the DMs. I'm Lauren.
I'm Ash.
And I'm Alejandro.
And we're still on 3 different time zones, for those who are wondering.
We are. I mean, it's gonna one more month, and then at least me and Alejandro are gonna be on the same time zone, and it's gonna be a lot easier scheduling things.
Yeah. When do you go back to LA, Ash?
I'm landing November 13th,
Okay.
so it's a Sunday.
How long are you staying in LA for?
I have a wedding in Cancun in December, so I guess a month. And then from there, I'm gonna go back home to Botswana, and then I think I'm gonna come back to Europe, and then come to New York.
Woohoo!
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of excited to go back to LA. I was doing my morning pages today and I was like, I'm really missing my routine, of course, and my friends and just like my home and like the city. I feel like I have a whole new appreciation of LA now.
Yeah, me too. I totally feel like my love is rejuvenated for LA.
Your love that was like already so
I
big.
know. But like when I first came to New York, I was like pretty excited about coming, I think. Like I felt like, okay, I've done everything I can do in LA. Like, let's go see what New York does. And then obviously knew I was going to come back eventually. But it's so funny how prideful people are about New York. Like you cannot say anything insulting about New York to people who are like New Yorkers. Like I mentioned that people ask me like, oh, how are you liking it? I'm like, I like it, but I miss LA a lot. Part of the problem is that I only see Columbia and my apartment because like my school schedule is just insane. Like I don't eat dinner until like 11 o'clock at night by the time that I get home. Yeah. So anyway, like people be like, oh, so how do you like it? And I'm like, well, I miss hiking. I miss the sun. I miss driving. And they're like, well, you could go hiking in New York. Like you just have to like take a train or like drive like an hour upstate. And then there's great hikes. I'm like, it is not the same as getting in your car and driving 10 minutes to like a beautiful hike with an ocean view. Like I get that New York is great, but we can let LA just have that one little thing, guys.
I agree. And LA has more than that. And I'm only just realizing now. But once I get back to LA and I have my little LA fun, I'm like, okay, well, New York.
I was reflecting on like the constant grind that everyone is on. And I'm sure it's the same as in New York. But I feel like we're all flowers. We need sunlight to blossom and grow and flourish. And part of that process, such experience requires the landscape that we have here. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying this now as I'm like, my eyes are still groggy. I'm like, I feel like my voice is still scratchy from waking up early. But I like that we have like different time zones going on. This is a fun adventure in trying to coordinate getting these meetups together, but it's always cool catching up.
What I like about LA also is the way how people are so centered around the industry. And it's like everywhere you go, somebody's an actor, somebody's a writer, somebody's a director, or somebody's trying to be that. Like it is just very creatively fulfilling that everybody's kind of on the same journey. And New York, like there's a lot of that as well, but it's a little bit more spread out, I think, and people have like a more broader scape of career paths. I love how in LA, like you're in an Uber to the airport and your driver is an actor who's been on Broadway. Like it's just such a fun adventure there. And speaking of succeeding in the industry, Alejandro, you have been going wild doing so many different projects. Please tell us.
It's been really fun. It's been so much fun. Last week I was in a staged reading of a screenplay by Isabel Cervantes that was called Las Coloridas Coloradas, and or no, Las Colitas Coladas. What does that mean? Oh my God. You see that? I'm not even making any damn sense. And it's this early that I didn't even say the right title. It's Las Coloridas Calaveras, which is this beautiful story about a character who finds her voice as a musician by tapping into her love of mariachi music that she grew up with, but really finding her voice and using it quite literally. Whereas before or early in the story, she thought that she was going to be like either a guitarist or a violinist for this mariachi group. So there's some love triangle tension that takes place, and Luis Iga is the one who directed and produced it. So we shall see how things go from there. And then Daddy Date is in Hollywood Short and Sweet competition, which is a 10-minute one-act theater competition. And it's an all Puerto Rican cast, written and directed by Teddy Alexis Rodriguez. That's been a really great and exciting experience to just be on stage with a live audience and have that interaction. And we have semifinals at the end of October. Hopefully that gets us into finals, which is that weekend. And then, yeah, there's a short film by Mike Telplacido called Toucan with Love that we're filming this coming weekend. So it's definitely been a busy few months, but I just love being able to connect with people, kind of like what you were describing, where like everyone is somehow tangentially involved in filmmaking, and to be able to grow and connect and express myself, or at least bring something to the table that might be helpful for someone else, is really cool.
And speaking of daddy dating, it's cuffy season, y'all.
Oh, yes. So have either of you heard of cuffing season? We are in cuffing season, aren't we?
Well, we've talked. No, I think we're in drafting season.
It's the whole cuffing season, but we're in the drafting era. Well, actually, we're in the tryouts right now.
Oh, I love this. I love this whole thing. So can somebody walk us through, because I think that the common conception of cuffing season is that it's just like the winter when the holidays come around, and that's when you find your partner, you settle down. But it happens much earlier. So can somebody walk us through that, please?
I love it. I think it's hilarious. So according to the cuffing season schedule, we have scouting, which takes place between August 1st through August 31st. Then we have drafting season, which is September 1st through the 30th. Then tryouts are October 1st through 31st. So now we're in tryouts season, but after comes preseason in November. Cuffing season is December through January. Playoffs is January through February. And then we have the championship game on February 14th, Valentine's Day.
And then you end it so you can repeat the cycle.
Well, so you have hot girl summer, right?
Exactly, necessarily. Duh.
Yeah. I've heard of cuffing season. Obviously, it's talked about a lot. But Alejandro, when you sent the schedule to us in the group chat, I lost it because I didn't know that there was a whole process to it, and I didn't realize that it takes you all the way to the championship game, which is Valentine's Day. This is so genius. Whoever made this schedule is just...
I agree.
Very,
yeah,
very
and I
funny.
think to put it in like layman's terms, so when you're in the drafting season, you're building your roster, you're finding out all the potentials who could potentially engage to later perform in the playoffs. And now that we're in tryouts, we're just like, going on dates, we're seeing how people perform in competition with the rest of the roster. Am I correct?
Yeah, so I think scouting actually was those like swiping on Hinge or going out to bars and, finding people in bars. And then the next one, which is drafting, I think that's when you're actually going on those dates and setting up all these dates and just building your roster, as Lauren said. And then the tryouts, I think if it makes it a couple of weeks, you maybe introduce them to your friends and see how they do it with your friends. preseason. No idea what that is, but I think that's still the same thing. You introduce them to more people, see if they can hang, see if they can maybe do like one of those like go getaway weekends with your friends, you know, like a little ski trip or something.
All getaway weekends. Check out the
Yes,
Instagram.
there you go.
I think that includes like going on like maybe for Thanksgiving, seeing if they can like fit into like a special holiday.
Or like a Friendsgiving.
Yeah, because you don't want to bring them all to your family. Can you imagine, like, if you brought them to, like, you're like, okay, family, we're going to stage out Thanksgiving dinner. We're going to do sides in the beginning. Then we're going to have appetizers. Then hors d'oeuvres is a separate section. And you bring a different guy to each section.
Oh my God.
My family would not do well with that. I think my mother would faint. And then we've got the cuffing season, which I think you actually choose someone and you're with them, you know, you're cuffed up with this one person. You know, it's cold, it's winter, you watch movies, you stay in, you do all the cute winter things. And then playoffs are to see if you make it between that January to February. I think that's when you're like, okay, is this relationship going to last, or are we going to make it? And then the championship game is if they do something for you for Valentine's Day. So if they plan a date for you, or if you actually hang out on Valentine's Day, rather than like just a text being like, oh, happy Valentine's Day. Like if they actually like set something up.
That's the winner.
That's the winner.
I'm dead.
And I love the asterisk at the end where it says this schedule is subject to change based upon feelings.
I love that.
Yeah. Disclaimer. If your feelings don't add up to this cuffing season, then ignore everything we're saying in this episode. But I think that it's a good time.
And if no one's on the roster, that's okay too.
So Ash, Alejandro, are you in the tryouts section of cuffing season?
No. Oh my goodness. No.
What a quick no. And what a disgusted no. He's like, oh God, no.
No.
So Alejandro, is that because you don't buy into cuffing season?
I think there could be some legitimacy to the cuffing season schedule. However, my mind just isn't even on that, to where it's like it's really cool just to be able to focus. And there are some days where I fall out of my routine and I get overwhelmed by like, you know, trying to keep my head above water in terms of balance and, you know, also finding time for peace. But Ash, what about you?
Yeah, redirect it to me. Why don't you real quick?
Yes, I shall.
I don't know if I truly believe in cuffing season and the schedule. I think the schedule is hilarious. And I actually, if I'm still single next year, I do actually want to try this out from the start of the season and like do it.
We like do an episode recap, like of each like section of the season.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm single this time next year, I want to start with from each season and we talk about it.
I want you to do that. Me too.
Okay, we'll do it. I'll just, if I have a boyfriend at that time, I'll just break up with him and I'll be like,
yeah. What if I'm like in the corner filming it and like I just like have the mic out like for the podcast?
I love it. We'll do that.
Let us know on the Instagram if we should do that. Continue, Ash.
So anyways, I am, what are we in the tryouts right now? Oh, drafting. I'm in the drafting seat. I think actually I'm following the schedule pretty closely.
No, we're in tryouts because
right, but I am. Oh, we're in tryouts, but I'm in the drafting season. It's a little bit. I'm a little bit behind. But I've been going on dates. I have been enjoying my dates, and it's with the same people or person. So it's been great. I mean, I took a long break. I took 10 days out of, you know, and in the tryouts and the drafting season, taking 10 days off is like, it's like dating suicide, like done with that relationship.
Yeah.
Every time my family's in town, I feel like the relationship or situationship I'm in, done, dies, gone. And I don't know why.
Well, I feel like your life gets really overwhelmed when your family comes to town. Not just you, but like anyone.
Yeah, I think so. But I just feel like guys can't take it when they don't see a girl that they're just starting to date for like a couple of weeks or days. Like, at least I'm still texting you and I make an effort like once in a while to go see you, but like my family's in town. So what do you expect? But whatever. I think those are the type of guys that I was choosing. I've
actually heard this from a lot of people that like there could be potential somewhere, but then like as soon as you go out of town, the potential fades.
Yes.
it's like you have to be there to continue the dates consistently, which like, can you imagine if I were in the dating realm trying to continue going on dates? There would just be no way. But
Time for you. No.
yeah, there would just be no time.
Actually,
Imagine. Go ahead.
so I think there's a difference between men in Europe and men in America. From my experience of dating, the American
Pray to
men
God.
do like the American men cannot handle having a break in the schedule. Like when you go out of town, they replace you so quick and they're done. They do not care. You have to be consistently dating and in town for months on end for this to go somewhere, and I am not. I like to travel, I like to go places. I'm not even from this country, so I go home. The European men, the French men, are used to it because they're all traveling all the time. Every weekend they're gone somewhere, so they're used to that. And so I've been able to be like consistently talking to the guy that I've been going on dates with, like it's fine, amazing, no problems, like texting almost every day and just keeping contact, and there's been no sign of them being less interested in me because I wasn't here.
Damn. That's real stuff. That's really good to hear. I'm also curious if the people that you've been going on dates with so far, like how does the potential work for after this? Because I'm curious, like when you're dating internationally and you don't know where you're going to end up, how does cuffing season change? Like if you don't know if there can be if you'll be in town for the championship games.
You know, I think I'm the one that's like playing this game and I'm not the one who's judging. So I think they're
you want me
actually
to judge? Just
No.
no, I think they're judging me. It's like their drafting season, their tryouts. Like I'm the player in their game because I am the one that's not a constant, right? I am going to be leaving next month, going back to LA, and then God knows where I'm going to be. But I feel like I've been pretty open about that. Hopefully they are able to, if I do find my match over here, I'm not so set on it. Like I really have an open mind. I'm going back home. What's the point of starting something unless there is like a big potential? So yeah, I mean, I'm open to long distance. As long as they are, then we're good. If they're not, then we're good.
Damn.
But openness sounds important. I mean, the pressures. Do you ever experience pressures from family members around like holiday season when it comes to like questions about who you're dating or who you're talking to, or not really?
Lauren, I want you to answer this question because I actually want to know, like you've been dating Brian for 7 years now. Do you get these questions when you go on family holidays, like from both of your sides? Do both of your families ask these questions?
Yeah, what I would say is the more annoying part is that like Brian and I don't always do holidays together. Actually, we've never done holidays together. And part of it is because my parents are divorced. So it already is like kind of difficult to pick like which parent am I going to be with on the holidays, that it feels like I'm not going to leave one parent alone just to go be with Brian's parents, like because that just feels like kind of sad to me. So I think this year is going to be the first year that we do some holidays together. We haven't discussed Christmas yet, but I think for Thanksgiving. And it's sort of just going to be like a rotation of seeing families and like merging things together. I don't necessarily think that there's pressure, but there's always questions like, why are we not doing holidays together? Because I do think that there's this like societal expectation that you're more serious about the relationship if you do holidays together. And sometimes like I do find myself like comparing myself to other people or comparing our relationship because like they get to do that. But as you guys know, like I usually have somewhat of a nouveau take on relationships and like how they should be spent and how they should impact like your independent life. And I think a lot of that is just because my parents are divorced. So yeah, I'll let you know if I have an updated opinion on this. What I will say is like we were talking about, is there pressure for cuffing season? When I was a serial dater, I feel like I would go through breakups a lot around cuffing season, and it would feel extra depressing not to have a boyfriend around this time. Like I would feel the pressure, like, oh, I really wish I had somebody, and like hearing other people getting like a Christmas present, or like going out on New Year's Eve with their significant other would always make me feel somewhat bad. And I don't know why there is that pressure. Like, I don't know why it feels like you should have somebody around the holidays because usually you're with your family during the whole holidays anyway. So I don't know why people feel like they need to find somebody around that, but I definitely have felt like I do.
I blame it on jewelry store commercials. I
Oh,
remember taping on VHS when I was in my youth, the first Jennifer Lopez televised
Oh my God, you're
concert
so
that took
cute.
place in Puerto Rico. And I think it was around the holiday season. And I remember so many damn commercials coming on TV for like these, what was it, J Jewelers, K Jewelers, something in Michigan. And it was like the same 2 or 3 ads that would come on and just promoting these beautiful diamonds for significant others. Mainly it was like heterosexual couples that were always showcased, of course. But I think maybe there's some novelty that big companies like that kind of capitalize on when it comes to like creating those sentimental moments that one can have with a partner. And I mean, the holiday season, especially Christmas, or other significant holidays that pertain to gift giving or special time with others. I feel like that has an influence, at least on my brain, as far as, the expectation of what one may choose to do when it comes to like special holidays, or how they choose to spend their time, or how much of a significance one's efforts or actions has on their significant others, like perception of the relationship. I'm rambling, but do you know what I'm saying?
No, I think that was genius actually to bring it about jewelry stores because I hadn't even thought of that. But you're right. Like the media does have such a strong hold on the way that we view holidays that I think it's hard to take in sometimes. Like how we don't even realize how we're being affected by ads.
Even when distracted by J-Lo.
Yeah, it's like these Hallmark cards, Hallmark movies. Like it is very targeted, and it is a big money making industry to capitalize or monetize these holidays.
Yeah. My mom watches the Hallmark movies like the entire day of Christmas. Like she just
Oh my
watches
God,
one
mine
Christmas movie, one
too.
Christmas movie, one Christmas
So
movie.
funny.
Do you feel certain pressure from your family? You're single. Do you feel like pressure from families on? Are you nervous about going home? If you are going home for the holidays this year, are your parents and extended family, are they going to be asking you a bunch of questions about who you're dating, what's going on?
I'm excited to see my family over Christmas. It's been since the beginning of the year since I last saw them. And I'm not really nervous about explaining where I'm at right now. But I do feel like there may be some questions, especially from certain prying relatives. Out of
There's
love,
always-
of course.
They're
out of
always
love.
prying relatives, and those are the same ones that
Mhm.
ask me the same questions.
Right. But it's, you know, I'm content with where I'm at, and my parents and I we're pretty close. So like, I mean, yeah, everyone has, at least they have an understanding of where I'm at right now, and I feel like everyone should be pretty respectful. I'm not.
Do you
really
think
trying
that the pressures differ in the LGBTQ community versus heterosexual relationships, or do you think that it's the same? Like there's the same pressure in cuffing season, regardless of where you fall?
I mean, if we're talking about like these major holidays, although maybe not to some. I mean, maybe February 14th, that isn't part of like the championship game schedule. Maybe for some, I'm wondering like there could be like a totally different lineup in terms of seasons or holidays. Even like maybe some, I know some couples don't even consider Valentine's Day like an actual thing, or it's more like a Hallmark holiday. So maybe there might be a, like, do you know what I'm saying? Like the schedule may have shifted some over the year, over the time of the year, because of where people kind of place those significant events. But no, I don't know. Yes.
Is there a certain pressure to be single or to be have a partner during Pride?
Some people might want to be single.
Yeah,
might
I
prefer to
was
be
gonna
single in
say,
that
is
time.
it better to be single or taken during Pride?
I mean, I guess that depends on how much one values being in a relationship, or how much one really just wants to
Values
have
fun.
fun. Yeah.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
So Osh, what are some things that you've done when you have had these questions around the holidays, like about finding a partner? How have you like combated feeling pressured to find a partner and going on your own schedule?
I just never listen to my relatives, to be honest. Like they have their own expectations. I got some questions
I was back in London for the past like 12 days and I saw all my family and I got these questions and it's not even holiday season yet. But I basically say the same thing as look, I'm looking and when I find someone, you'll be the first to know.
No.
They won't be.
This podcast will be. So stay tuned.
Exactly. This podcast definitely will be the first to know.
Alejandro, little tidbit for the listeners on combating cuffing season.
Tell him to fuck off. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there you go.
No, that was good. Please
Yeah.
continue.
Yes.
We like that.
That one.
No, seriously. I mean, yeah, my thing is like if you don't feel comfortable sharing or if you don't feel like, putting your business out there. Also, if you're not even participating in cuffing season, one should not feel pressure either way. And, whether or not you want to share that information, that's totally up to you. So just
Go on with your
I
dad.
think I think the championship game or day for me is my birthday. For some reason, it's. Can you hear
Really?
me, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
I'm intently listening.
It's my birthday. Like I get very nervous about I don't like my birthdays, as I've already said on here, I think, and I get very nervous about my birthdays just because there's this whole expectation of society of you to like do something big and do something amazing and have the best day ever. But I feel like we should normalize like not doing anything. But anyways, I feel like it's easier for me to enjoy a birthday if I have a partner because then I'm like, okay, I'm not alone at least. So nobody's going to be feeling sorry for me, even though you shouldn't. Like it's a normal day. But like I'll have someone to plan something for me. So that's my championship day or game. Not Valentine's Day. I could care less about Valentine's Day. I am happy spending it alone. I'm happy to go see some girlfriends. Like I don't really care about it, but my birthday is the big day.
Interesting.
I kind of feel you. I'm like of the opposite mindset. For my birthday, I'm just like, I don't know. I used to really enjoy like celebrations and things, but now it's just like, nah. Let me cozy up and just not.
Yeah.
It's like it's like a cocooning phase almost that I feel like happens around that time of year.
I agree.
I've
Born
definitely
is
felt that
different though.
pressure around the birthday. I agree with that. And I think that's interesting because it is like these landmark occasions. Like for some reason, we want the validation of a partner around those times. But even once you're in a relationship, like then there's pressure on how your partner performs on that day. Like what have they done to celebrate the birthday? Like are they celebrating it adequately? Did they effectively surprise you? Then it all adds up to a different course. And then you have to ask yourself, like, what are your expectations on your birthday? Do you have expectations on your birthday? Or are you a chill girl and you have no expectations and you're just down for whatever, just down to be honored?
I'm a chill girl and I have no expectations, but that means that you should do something really big for my birthday. You know?
Exactly. That's the
I like
thing.
that,
That's the
yeah.
thing about chill girls. They always say they want less than they do.
Yeah. We don't mean it, guys. Read our minds.
Yeah, duh. I'm not a chill girl. I'll just call it out right now.
We know.
I wish I was. I'm not.
We know.
And on that note, should we get into today's letter?
Let's do it. We have, dear damsels, I've started seeing someone and I think it's getting serious, but it's really hard to tell. We met around 3 weeks ago and we've been in constant communication and we've been going on dates around 2 to 3 times a week. I always get nervous once it reaches the 2-month mark because I always seem to lose them after a couple months of consistently dating. This guy really seems interested in me, but so have the others in the past, until suddenly they just ghost. Thanksgiving is around the corner and I hate going home and getting a billion questions asked about my dating life. I don't even know what to tell my family because every time I tell them about someone, they seem to disappear after a couple of weeks. How do I keep this guy around so that we can move on to the next stage of dating, which is being exclusive? ? Help. Can't keep a date.
Okay, question. Is your family in the mafia? Because why are these people disappearing after you tell them about them?
I know that's right. What?
Mm.
Like, ooh.
I relate to that though, because once I talk about someone and like speak it into the to the universe, if something goes wrong and I end up getting ghosted, or they show a side of them that's like that is not appealing to me, or something happens. So the I've kept I kept someone a secret for 1.5 years. Like I didn't tell anyone, just like maybe one or two people. And that went on for 2 years. Wasn't the best person or the best relationship. It's the New York person, but it still was the longest person that I kept.
That's so disappointing when you gotta like read through context clues or decipher, whatever sort of correspondence you have with a person. And then you have that buildup or that roller coaster of just like, oh, anticipation, thinking that it's going to be so many sparks and fireworks. But then, oh, how underwhelming and how disappointing to go through that where like, yeah, you come to the realization that like, oh, maybe I should have just like kept it silent a little longer. But then that sucks. Because it's like you want to share these victories and love and romance with people you care about, right? But then you also don't want to like speak it too much into existence to the point where it
Right.
becomes like ick or nauseating. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels a little superstitious to me. Like it does just feel like a little bit like this is coming out of anxiety and fear of losing somebody, which I don't think is fair for you to have. And I think in a way it adds like a whole new pressure to it because then you're afraid to tell your family because if you speak it into existence, then like you're afraid it might go away. And like I would love for it just to be held a little bit more lightly. And like if you know that you're going to get a billion questions on it, like maybe we could help you come up with something to say where it doesn't feel like you're revealing something that you're maybe not comfortable revealing right now, but like gives you something that it's not like you're necessarily lying about it, but not also that you're putting so much pressure on it. Like, I wonder if you could just say something like, well, it's cuffing season, so the draft perspectives are out, but I haven't landed on who's going to the championships yet. Like if you just said something that was like maybe so wildly vague that people are just like, oh, okay, I don't even know what to make of that, so I'm not going to say
Yeah.
something.
Wildly vague and very confusing. They're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? Are you
Yeah,
seeing someone or no?
exactly.
But I'm curious though, like, what if this person is like, what is it? Maybe deflecting or projecting? Like when they say, I always get nervous once it reaches the 2 month mark because I always seem to lose them after a couple months of consistently dating. What I'm saying is, what if they're actually the ones losing interest and they're feeling the opposite or like they're feeling that from another person, whereas like really it's just like internally.
Oh, like they're feeling like the person is pulling back, but really they're pulling back and they're
yeah.
projecting on the other person.
Yeah. Like what if that could be a thing?
To be
Mm,
honest, that really could be.
yeah.
I do this thing where, or I used to do this thing where I would start, if I notice any signs of them pulling back, and mind you, back in a couple years ago, the sign of them pulling back is that they just don't respond like, within the first like
Yeah.
couple of hours, or they're taking more time to respond. That's a sign that used to be a sign of them pulling back. I would immediately shut down and put up my walls and be like, well, I'm going to do it like twice as much. Like I'm going to look completely uninterested in you. And then that obviously pushes them away because they're like, okay, well, you don't even like me. So why am I going to try?
Yeah. No, timeliness matters. And like if you go from having like a regular correspondence or rapport that's like spitfire, just like, all right, let's do this. And then to change it up, it's like, okay, yeah, I get life happens, or if like work isn't in the way of corresponding, whatever that happens. But I don't know. It's consistency is important. I think consistency is very, very important. So
And I also wonder if you're doing something when it gets close to the 2 month mark that's coming off desperate or coming off like you're clinging onto it. Like, what about you is also changing when it gets nearing that point? Because like you might be giving off some type of energy that comes off as like anxious or like you're trying to get really serious or fear of losing them around 2 months that you're not even like understanding or rationalizing. This actually happened to me recently in an interaction with Brian where like I was blaming him for something that I didn't even look at like what my part in the matter was. And then when it realized like, oh gosh, I'm doing this particular thing that I didn't even realize I was doing, like it really opened it up to Brian. And like Brian really appreciated when I was able to call this out because I think so often we're afraid to be self-aware or we're afraid to like admit to negative qualities about ourselves because like we're the protagonists in our own story. but I think that sometimes it can be really powerful to understand when you're doing something in an interaction that potentially cuts it off or makes people feel a certain way. And once you can like acknowledge that and honor that, I think that that can really help your relationships to progress beyond this 2-month period.
I agree with that. And I really appreciate the note about self-awareness, because I feel like each of us has different capacities. We have different but strong capacities for self-awareness. And I feel like every time I come on, it's like I always learn something from each of you as far as just being more self-aware and like, yeah, not being so like, oh, it's this or that. It's trying to figure out like, well, what am I doing that could be making me feel this way, or what could I do differently that could help the situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think self-awareness is super important. And for the last question that they asked, which was how do I keep this guy around so that we can move on to the next stage of dating, which is being exclusive, is that you can't, like, nothing that you don't have control. I've actually said this a lot in the past. Like, you don't have control over anyone else but yourself. Like, you can't control how they feel about you. The only thing is just be the truest version of yourself and don't try to make someone like you. Like, if they like you, they like you. If they don't, they don't. Like, you can't control that. Just be as genuine as possible.
And I would say further, even don't try to make somebody stay. And that's actually a mistake that I made a lot when I was a serial dater, is that I was so obsessed with having a boyfriend that I put more emphasis on trying to get somebody to stay with me than I did on cultivating the actual relationship. And that's a regret that I think about a lot. So I would just make sure, rather than like clinging on so tightly so that it gets beyond this point, how can you continue to enjoy it? And how can you continue to revel in the moment rather than unwittingly pushing the person away by your need to cling on to them? I think that's going to be important. And it's also, on the note of self-awareness, why sometimes I bristle when we talk about like fuck boys, or when we talk about like always dating the same type of person, because I think when people do that, we forget to look in why we're doing that. And we forget to look in like we have just as much of a stake in dating the same person over and over again as the same person existing in the world. So I think like in those types of situations, in this type of situations, it's always important just to take a look in and say, hey, what's my part in this?
And do like Bruce Lee said, make sure you move like water. I feel like that kind of builds upon what you two were both saying, as far as just not forcing things, just accepting people for where they're at and figuring out how you're going to not adjust your behavior or actions or words, but just whether you want to continue aligning yourself with that other person or not. Like, that's totally up to you. But just when people, how does that go? When people show you who they are, believe them, isn't it? I think that's a phrase of some sort, but that seems applicable in this case. So don't rush it. Just move like water. That'd be my take.
When it comes to cuffing season, tread lightly and move like water.
There you go.
Oh, that's right.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for coming and listening to another episode of Damsels in the DMs. Please let us know what you're enjoying hearing, who some of your favorite guests have been, what more you'd like to hear about from us. If there's certain topics that you think like, oh, I wish you guys would talk more about that. We're starting to schedule in our season 3. So please let us know, because we want to be giving you guys content that you're interested in.
And if you have any guests that you want us to bring on, we would love to, we're open to all ideas.
And we're always open. Our inbox is ready for these letters that keep coming in, so keep on sending them.
And please subscribe, rate, and review on both Apple and Spotify. The giveaway is still open, so we are still looking for those amazing reviews. If you guys can give it to us, they don't actually have to be amazing about the content. We're all here for the honesty and self-awareness. So let us know how you think it's all going. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Damsels in the DMs.
Until next time.
It's going down in the DMs.
Bye.
DMs, we don't need them, we just leave them.
Please.
Yeah.
It's going down in the DMs. Bye.